So today's session will be including the most basic poses, standing poses. So we'll do footwork and leg work and hip work and um, put it together in a kind of a stronger practice. But before we get there, I just wanted to mention something I came across in reading, which I loved, and it happens to be a writing by my singing teacher, Rose Wilson, and she was talking about how important singing is to her and to other people. But I was reading what she'd written, and I was thinking you could substitute yoga for every time that she mentions singing. So have a listen. And this is a quote from her. I was asked why I think singing matters. Singing matters insofar as any creative form of expression which allows for catharsis and connection matters. Singing happens to be the one I can do and the one I can share. In addition, it is so wonderfully accessible. If someone can speak, then they can sing. Nothing to buy, nothing to lug around. It's just there and always is. It's always so visceral. You get such an embodied feeling and response. In summary, do anything that allows you to feel alive and connected. And I happen to be on team singing, but we're on team yoga. Um, yes, so thank you, Rose. But do get onto your mats now, and even though we don't need to lug around a lot of equipment, I hope what you have is a bolster, a belt, a blanket, and a couple of blocks for today, a couple of foam blocks. So if you would take a lying down position on your mat, we'll do a very simple breathing exercise. So in my reclining position, my legs bent and feet on the floor near my buttocks, and arms loose out to the side. Take a moment to settle in and make sure that you have a comfortable position for your neck, supported with a blanket if you need to. And then bend your elbows and rest your hands across the navel center, one below, one above. And allow the abdomen to relax completely. And then we're going to breathe in the area of the diaphragm, and that will be the emphasis. So the diaphragm being that important breathing muscle that divides the thorax from the abdominal area. So feel the movement of the diaphragmatic band that goes all the way around from front, sides to the back. And feel the breath open into that area. And then allowing for a release on the exhalation. And let's breathe in such a way, we call it equal breathing, where the inhalation in timing matches the exhalation. So say your breath count is 4 on the inhalation, then you'll match it with the same breath count on the exhalation. And we'll go like this for several rounds of breathing. And where your hands rest across the abdomen, see if you can keep the navel center very relaxed. So the movement is predominant in the diaphragm. And it's also a circumferential breath. So the breath can be felt at the front, the sides, and the back of the diaphragm. And usually where we notice the breath is at the front. So see if you can feel a little bit more awareness into the back. And keeping the navel as still as possible. Facial features are relaxed, especially across your forehead, your eyes. Just go 2 more rounds. Breathing fully in, breathing fully equal time, breathing out. This area of the body, that mid-thoracic area, in energy terms, in the vayus, is samana vayu. And that breathing tempo is a good samana breathing tempo as well. All right, and then eyes open again, and find your way up to a seated position, and possibly on a blanket, a folded blanket, or a bolster. Keep your yoga belt next to you. So I'm sitting in cross-legged position. I hope that's comfortable for everybody. Or another version of that is Sukhasana, easy cross-legged. And if that's not comfortable for you, of course, sit on a chair or sit in kneeling hero pose, Virasana. Let's start with interlocking the hands, and not to abandon the emphasis on breathing. Turn your hands out, extend your arms forward, and inhale your arms up. And let's do a little pulse with the exhalation. Inhale the arms extended, and exhale back. Like that, and then lower the arms to chest height. Change your interlock. Re-extend your arms. Keep the knuckles at the bottom all locked in so they get a good stretch. And inhale with that pulsing breath on the exhalation. Beautiful. And then lower your arms and release your hands to your legs. Let's take up the belt for the next movement of the arms and the breath. Hold the strap, 2-hand grip at shoulder width distance, and then bring the arms up overhead. Feel when you're holding the belt that you increase the tension on it. So you've got to use your arm muscles for that. And holding the breath firmly. And let's do the same kind of pulsing movement with the breath on the exhalation. Beautiful. And then keeping the arms in that raised position, let's go a little bit laterally. So tipping to the right. And back up to center. And to the left. We could say that was an exhalation to the side, an inhalation up. Once more each side, and over to the right. Bring yourself up. And that lateral to the left. Just a small movement to start with here. Release the belt and leave it to the side, and then extend your legs out in Dandasana. Give them a good stretch, and then fold them the other way for cross-legged, if you're in cross-legged. And then let's do another lateral movement. So these are good preparations for standing poses like Trikonasana. Bring your right hand out onto the floor, onto the right side. I'm going to leave my left hand onto my left leg, just as a reminder to stay grounded on that side, and then lengthen out as much as you like, out to the right. And let's add an arm movement here. Bring your left arm in front of your body, and then in a big circular movement to the right first, and then up and overhead. And extending the raised arm, the left arm on the diagonal above the right side. Beautiful. And then pull yourself back up. And let's go over left. Left hand to the floor on the outside of your left hip. And extending it out. Keeping as much grounding through the right side as possible. Bring your right arm in front of you. And then in a big and relaxed gesture, bringing that right arm on the diagonal in a stretch to the left. Good. Relax the lower shoulder. And then inhale and come up. And I found that a really lovely movement, but I'm sliding off my support, so it might be a little bit too high for me, but coming back up so the sitting bones are supported. Bring your right hand over onto the right side again. Slide it out a little bit more, and then see if you can move your elbow towards the floor. So we're not in a competition here. We're not trying to bring it all the way to the floor, but a slight bend in the elbow increases that lateral movement. And then let's take the opposite arm up and over. So I'm just looking straight forward towards the camera and bring the head back a little bit. That helps me lift my chest. And all the way up and over second side, and supporting yourself onto your left hand. Flex that elbow. See if you can lower down a little bit more if that movement is there for you. And then let's take right arm up and over to the left. Relax that lower shoulder, and then come all the way up once more. Good. And we've done really beautiful movement for opening up the sides of the lungs and the sides of the waist. And then extend out the legs once more. And we're going to take up the foam block, but place your support, your bolster or the blanket that you're sitting on, right close to the wall, maybe an inch or two away from the wall. So I've got my wall position and sitting very near to it, up on my support. And then here's the foam block. I'm going to take that block behind me and interface it, so it'll be between the wall and my upper part of my back. And I have it in the narrow position. It's also possible to have it flat. But this narrow position works for me. And once I've got the block there, I'm going to lean back against it. And having done that with a light pressure, it's just helped me reduce any stooping that happens in the upper part of the back sometimes. So I'm very upright in that support. And the block is between my shoulder blades in the center of my spine. And then let's see what happens in a raised arm position. So inhale your arms up. And exhale your arms down. Let's do these movements for several times. And exhale down. Just as a way to connect with your breath, of course, but also that feeling of having the back of the lungs fully supported. And let's make this the last one, and lowering the arms. Beautiful. And then let's take the block out. This could be an aid for you when you're doing seated meditation. So a way to remind you to sit up in a upright position, but with no sense of your being uptight and trying to maintain that position. From a little more forward position onto your bolster or your blanket, then extend your legs out into the pose Upavista Konasana, or the splits, commonly called the splits. Bring your hands onto the bolster, and then see if you can find your way by leaning forward slightly towards the front of your sitting bones. Have a look at your feet and have them in a line. And then, because we're going to be doing some balancing on us in standing positions and also some standing poses, let's wake up the feet. So from extending the feet away from you and then drawing them back, from dorsiflexion to plantiflexion. And if it happens that the hamstrings feel uncomfortable here, keep a slight knee bend. You can still do your foot movements. And then circle your feet. And the other way. All the toe bones and ankle bones included. Beautiful. And then let's give the leg stretch a rest. And if you grab the inside of your knees, pull your heels in close to you and bring your feet into Baddha Konasana. So find your way into Baddha Konasana in an upright position again, and maybe helped by having your hands next to you and bringing yourself to the front of your sitting bones again. Another way to appreciate that is as though you're lifting your tailbone a little bit. And then from Baddha Konasana, once more, you might still feel the imprint of the block behind you when you had it at the wall behind you, and then lifting up the top front chest, but from the shoulder blades. And then grab your hands onto the outside of your knees this time and extend your legs forward in Dandasana. All right, and then let's come all the way up to standing for a balancing pose. And we'll be working towards tree pose, but let's do a few exercises before then to make it easier to balance, hopefully. So standing on the center of your mat with your feet slightly apart. We often take Tadasana and say lift and spread the toes, and that's for balance, and it's also for the suppleness of your toes. So another way to do that is have a look at your right foot And then lift up your right heel and spin your right heel out, but keep your weight on the inside of your right foot and especially on your big toe. Press firmly on the back of the big toe, right foot, big toe. You've internally rotated your right leg. Now bring your right leg front and center again as you press onto your big toe and feel the big toe spread away from the second toe. And if you look at the toes now, there's a little bit more space between them. Let's do the same adjustment on the left leg and lift your left heel and spin on the ball of your left foot. Bring the left heel wide and keep your weight on the inside of your left foot on the base of your big toe. And then turn your foot front and center again. All your toes facing directly forward and a little bit more space between the big toe and the second toe. Feel your line of vision now straight forward and the weight on the forefoot and a little bit front of the heel bones. And that's your Tadasana, and well balanced onto your feet. Then let's circle the knees where that weight is transferred into the ankles. So there's a little circling through the ankles. And also the foot bones. And then circle the knees the other way. And finally come to a standstill where you're steady, balanced on both feet, bringing any motion to a standstill and ready for Vrishkasana, tree pose. We're going to use the wall for Vrishkasana today. And if you stand sideways to the wall, let's start on the right side facing the wall. Your left leg is going to be your weight balancing leg. And then when you bring your right leg up, you're going to place the right foot onto your left leg, along the leg as you wish. I'm going to bring my foot all the way up to the top of the thigh and wedge my right knee into the wall. So I've got the wall for balancing my right knee and also pressing from the knee into my right foot and then pressing back my left thigh into my right foot. So that lets me feel very compressed in my hips and also seems to switch on my core muscles a bit there. And then we can complete what we're doing, bring the hands into prayer position in front of the chest. Can you recreate that feeling in your upper part of your back when you had the block behind you? And then let's switch to the second side. And the right leg, your weight-bearing leg now. My left side facing the wall, and left foot, right thigh. Left knee against the wall. And you can place your foot anywhere along that leg and even have your toes on the floor if your balance is shaky today. And then the compacting of the hips comes from pressing left foot against the right thigh and right thigh back against the left foot. And then hands in prayer position, if that's easy to manage. And that reminds you to lift and open the chest. Good. And releasing there. And then coming back to the original side. And who knows? You never know your luck here. It's not all luck. It's skill and preparation. So let's see if we can be a little bit away from the wall this time. And take into account all those important adjustments that we made. Foot presses against the thigh, thigh presses against the foot. Feel the strength of your standing foot, base of the big toe. If you happen to lose your balance, then see if you can get back into the fray again. And make sure that you're not holding your breath. And then release, and other side. So if your balance is a bit shaky, then still rely on the wall. There's no contest here that we're trying to win a prize for. And it could be as simple as having a bad balance day. All right, and then quietly completing Vrishkasana, tree pose, and give your legs a bit of a shake out. All right, come on to your mat, and we'll take the pose Trikonasana. So stepping out reasonably wide on your mat. And then turn your feet to the right. Let's be a little careful about alignment here. Have a look at your right foot and line the heel up with the left heel. And then bring your hands onto your hips. And where your left hand rests against the front of your left hip, soften that hip and allow the left thigh to turn in slightly. And then at the same time, turn the right thigh out, right at the top of the thigh, and the right knee turns out slightly. Feel the weight on both feet. Bring the arms out to the side. Extend to the tips of your fingers, and then take the right hand down at the same time as the left arm comes up. Good. And the important adjustment that I've learned in recent times is to lift my tailbone a little bit in this position. So tailbone lifts, and I've adjusted through the pelvis. Keep the shoulders relaxed, and a nice way to do that is just to lift the crown of the head a little bit. Inhale and bring yourself up to standing. Spin on your feet and turn your feet all the way to the left. And pause there for a moment. Of course, rest your arms anytime that you need them. Rested. And then extend out to the left side and left hand down, right arm up. Good. So we're not attempting to look up towards the ceiling, but do release your shoulders back. Lift the tailbone slightly. And lift the crown of the head. And just before we come out here, out of the pose, soften the front of the right hip. Let it come around a little bit. Turn the top of the left thigh out. Turn the left knee out. And inhale and come up. Turn your feet front and center. And step to Tadasana. Rather than having the feet all the way together, separate them by a couple of inches, and then feel the lovely adjustments that you made to your feet in the warm-up exercises. Lift the toes, spread the toes. Feel the weight at the forefoot, but also just at the front of the heel bones. Relax your shoulders, relax your arms. And let's move into Warrior Two position. So stepping out reasonably wide. Turn your feet to the right. Line the heels up in one line, and then extend the arms out sideways. Let's warm up the knees a little bit by alternating bending and straightening, flexing and stretching. And look over to that right side. Maybe observe the knee as you do your knee bend, and take the knee a little bit more towards the little toe side of the foot. We can do this with the breath, exhaling and inhaling and exhaling and inhaling. Next time that you bend your knee, stay in the bent leg position. Maybe bring your hands onto your hips and adjust the bent leg side. You could feel, just palpate with your right hand where your sitting bone is, and allow the sitting bone to tuck under as the right knee comes back slightly, and the front of the left hip softly forward. Then re-extend your arms. Good. Feel like you're really steady in your balance with the weight divided between the 2 feet. Take a couple of breaths there. And inhale and come up. Let's rest the hands onto the hips as we shift and make some adjustments for the second side. And starting that movement of alternately bending and straightening. Good, and observe your own way of working into this, and allow the bend of the left knee to point towards the little toe side of your left foot. Good. And still keeping the hands onto the hips a little while longer, take your bent leg position and then palpate where the left sitting bone is underneath the left buttock. See if you can just sit into that sitting bone a little bit more as it tucks under. And the tailbone is lifted slightly. And then extend the arms and feel the weight nicely divided between the 2 feet. The right foot supportive as much as the left foot. And then pressing the feet lightly, inhale and come up. Turn your feet front and center. And then as you lower your arms, stepping back, Tadasana. Taking a little time in Tadasana. Don't want to give it short shrift. Feel the light extension through the elbows. And Parsvattanasana now. So we'll be in a side-on position. So I'm going to demonstrate this facing the short end of my mat. Right foot forward and left foot back. And having taken that position, which is asymmetrical now, so before we had our hips in one line, more or less, bring your hands onto your hips, and to take a forward bend in this position, let's adjust the hips so that they're level and square. Right hip comes back a little bit, left hip comes forward. And then bring your arms straight up towards the ceiling. Inhale And exhale, take a dive forward in a forward bend from the tops of your thighs, and just bring your hands down onto your front leg. And then keep that right knee bent slightly, push into the sole of your right foot, and inhale and come up again. So let's take a few of those movements. Forward bend, and exhale down, and inhale up, and exhale diving forward, and inhale up. And then lower your arms to your side and step left foot to right and change sides. And right foot back. Good. With your hands onto your hips, adjust your hips. You can feel into it so that they're square and level. And the weight balanced between the front foot and the back foot. And inhale, stretching up. And exhale from the tops of your thighs, a forward bend. Inhale. Feel your feet supporting you well here. And one more. And then lowering your arms to your side and stepping right foot to left. And left foot back. All right, so what I didn't mention here is the distance between the feet. So if you can picture your feet on rails rather than in one line, the right foot can be fairly wide to the right and the left foot fairly wide to the left. As you do that, then feel your optimum distance of your feet like that. And you can experiment with that a little bit, closer in or closer or further out. For me, my feet not as wide as the mat, but I'm taking up more space for my own stability, and that feels really like a firm pose. So we can take this into warrior one pose. So find your footing, strong footing, and then we're going to take a bent leg position, front leg. Inhale your arms up as you bend your front leg. And exhale and arms down and straight front leg. As you bend your right leg, take your right knee a little bit right and exhale the arms down. Let's go a couple more times just to get into that groove without taking your head up as yet. Beautiful. Step left foot to right and readjust your distance, your optimum distance. Good. And working with the breath here, let the breath animate your movement. Weight equal on both feet. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. Rather than taking your head back, just lift your gaze up. And exhale. And inhale. And exhale. One more. And exhale. And right foot to left. Good. Pause for a moment. And let's put those two movements together. So right foot forward, left foot back. And taking up what might be for you a wider position, but just experiment with that. So you've got space between the tops of your thighs, space for your sacrum actually at the back. And then let's combine from bent leg to forward bend, Parsvottanasana, starting with warrior one, inhale, and then dive forward, straight front leg into Parsvottanasana, exhale. Inhale back through warrior one, inhale. Exhale, completing straight leg, arms by your side. Let's go with the breath. In breath, Out breath. In breath. Out breath. Now you find your own way with this, and we'll do 2 more where your breath is your metronome rather than my counting. And last one. Pause as you complete and switch left leg forward, right leg back. All right, take a moment, adjust your hips, adjust that optimum distance between your legs, and here we go. And completing, and arms back to your side, and stepping forward. Beautiful. And we're ready for the last of the standing poses, which is wide leg forward bend, which is kind of a general way of talking about it. There's lots of variations for this pose. So come to face the long end of your mat again, and take up a block and step out possibly wider than you've been in the previous standing poses. And then adjust your legs so that you're all 5 toes facing forward, or maybe just even slightly toe in. And then place that block in front of you and be underneath your chest. And bring your hands onto your hips. Look at your lovely feet again that you've been working on earlier and warming them up. And let's do a little bit of rolling on the forefoot and heel. Little toe side to big toe side of your foot. Of course, the leg bones move with that movement too. Good. And then find the position where your weight's evenly distributed across the balls of the feet, from the big toe to the little toe, from the inner heel to the outer heel. And so you feel strong and stable in your feet. And then take a bow forward and halfway towards the floor. Feel you could, at this stage, lift your tail up towards the ceiling, but don't overdo that. So it's just a little lift there. And then rest your hands onto the block on the high end. Bring your chest forward at this time. And in the main, we do that to open up the top front corners of your chest. And you're still looking down, but extending the torso forward, like a lift of the tail. Good. And then from there, we're going to do a lateral and a side movement. Balance your weight onto your right hand. Bring your left hand onto your left hip. Excuse me. And then keeping that right arm straight, turn all the way around. Head turns, shoulders turn, diaphragm turns to the left side. And then come back to center, and let's go the other way. Left hand supports you. Press into the heel of your left hand, right hip. Spin all the way around and looking to the right side there. The left arm is straight. Good, back to center. You've done a nice warm-up through the torso there. Let's add an arm movement. So balancing your weight onto your right hand again, left hand, left hip. Look to the left side and bring that left shoulder back, and then see how you go to extend up your left arm above your left shoulder. If that's too strong in your shoulder, by all means keep your hand onto your hip. And then before we finish here, turn your head and look down at the block where your right hand rests. And then left hand, left hip. Let's swap it over and turning all the way around to the right side. Look to the right. Bring that right shoulder back. And then finally, extend up your arm. Keep the elbow bent if you need to look after your shoulder there. And then looking down at your at the block in your hand. And then right hand, right hip. Both hands onto your hips. Press your feet firmly. Bend your knees a little bit. And inhale and come all the way up to standing and upright. Beautiful. Let's do one more movement while we're here. And without the block this time. Bring your arms out sideways from your shoulders. Extend right to the finger pads, the tips of your fingers, and lengthen out. And then holding firm through your feet, take a dive forward from the tops of your thighs in your forward bend. Your arms are out to the side like biplanes. Tip forward if you can so that you still feel the forefoot working as much as the heel bone. And then allow the hands to come down along your legs. And allow the back to bend into a rounded shape finally, with the tail lifting. My hands are far enough down my legs, so I'm going to hold my ankles or maybe even slip my fingers underneath the outer arches of my feet, but only go as far as your back will allow with what we've done so far, and your head pointing towards the floor. Good. And then standing well and firmly into your feet and your ankles, bring your hands up to your hips again. Soften your knees and bend forward slightly, and inhale and come all the way up and roll up to standing, and heel toe coming back to center. Good. Very good work. I'd like to include in this sequence a back-bending movement, and in order to warm up for that, let's do a lunge position, and for that I'm going to take up 2 blocks. So lunges are good ways of stretching the quadriceps for one thing, the front thighs, which is helpful for back bending. So when you have your 2 blocks and they're placed on the upright, take a kneeling position. And I'm very fortunate here. I've set myself up. Well, it was good planning, really. I've got 2 mats, and I'm on a carpeted surface anyway. So you want to protect your knees, especially as you're aging, as I am. There's less cushioning in the knee pads, in the knee bones. So then we can add blankets or folded mats if you need to protect your knees. In any case, let's have your weight onto your left knee and bring your right foot forward into a lunge. So you see what I've done with the blocks. I have them there for support, but also for balance and extension of my arms. So I've stepped my right foot forward, and my lunge position takes me into an obtuse angle behind my knee. So wide angle there. And that gives me a little latitude for bending into my front leg. So on the back leg, feel the left thigh internally rotating. That's going to keep your hips more in a line too. And as you're ready, then deepening the bend of the front leg. Or maybe you just hold it where you are. And then let's swap. So coming up first, and then stepping right foot back, and left foot forward. Nudge that left foot a little further forward, and take the knee bend. Keep the front of the right thigh internally rotating, turning in, and tall and proud, and chest lifted, and top lungs lifted. Good. And let's go one more round, and stepping the right leg forward. So you start out with that wide angle, and then you narrow it a little bit as you bend into the front leg. Let's see what happens when we straighten the front leg and move the hips back and lift up onto the right heel. Now you're in a position where you could stretch the right foot away from you, plantar flexion, and the heel, the toes back towards you, dorsiflexion, back and forth a little bit. Good. And then let's switch sides. And left foot forward. Keep hold of the blocks as you exchange the legs or lift up off the block in between. And then taking support there and adjusting right hip forward, left hip back slightly, and into your knee bend. And can you feel that stretch through the back leg from the quadricep, from the knee to the hip? And then straightening that left leg, draw the hips back slightly and flex your foot towards you and away from you a few times. If you look after your feet, then the feet will help you look after you in some of the poses that we've done today, especially the standing poses. And then let's release back and into up kneeling position, and then take the blocks away and lie yourself out on your mat, belly down. Now take a moment, let's see, just up on your elbows, that's a good way to start. And take a moment and sort of nuzzle yourself into the mat. So a bit of side to side, kind of shaking out your buttocks. And then rather than bringing your legs all the way together and your feet together, then step your feet out so that they're a comfortable distance. And this is up to you. So find that distance that releases the lower back, the lumbar spine, and the sacrum. So the sacrum has its own space, and the lumbar spine feels relatively relaxed. And then for Cobra, come down and rest onto your forehead, your head straight forward, and bring your hands near to the sides of your body. Slide your hands back so that your fingers, possibly tips of your fingers underneath your shoulders. And practice this really simple position as you're lying quietly, just moving your elbows back towards your waist. Feel in that movement, elbows nearer to the side ribs, and the triceps moving down and towards the floor, your upper arm muscles. And then holding that position, elbows back, then create a squeeze through your armpits to mobilize the triceps. Open your hands and spread your fingers like you do for dog pose, where your palms are going to support you wide and soft. And then press the tops of your feet and start to unroll from the floor. Lift your head, lift your chest. Keep your weight onto the little toe side of your foot, so the thighs turning in, and come up just for the first round, a little, and then coming back down. Once you rest your head again, then release any holding in the glutes into the buttock muscles. And we're coming up again and pressing into your palms for support and coming up, and possibly a little bit more, and holding that squeeze feeling through the upper, through the armpits and the elbows down, and then coming all the way back down to ground. And third time, and elbows in and elbows back, and armpit squeeze, and unrolling from the floor. Feel the tailbone not towards the floor, but lengthening away from the base of the spine, and coming up as much or as little as you want here, or as you feel is safe for your body. And the gaze is upward, and exhale all the way to ground. When you come down this time, then fold your arms and rest your head onto your folded arms or hands. Relax your shoulders, let your legs fall out, let the buttock muscles release. And very gradually, and for what it suits your body, then come into child's pose. Remembering that you're moving from back bend to forward bend. So first all fours kneeling, and then gently rotating your hips back. Take the arms in front of you, but keep the elbows close to you, and then just rest your head onto your folded hands. Or even a block, if you still have a block near to you. Let your tailbone drop towards the floor, and your shoulders relax and fall out. And feel your breath into your back body, and especially where your kidneys are. And let's come up for a seated twist. And I'll get my support, a bolster again to sit on. So the simplest of twists is Sukhasana, um, cross-legged twist. And when I'm sitting on a high support, as I am right now, that keeps me well lifted and supported, but also my arms are a bit short. So I'm going to put the block behind me in my turn to the right side. So let's start turning to the right, and left hand, right knee, and right hand behind you. For your body type, your anatomy, you might not need a block behind you. You can reach the floor easily. So once your hands are placed, then bring yourself back up into your full height. Maybe you can remember the imprint of the block that was between your shoulder blades and lift up through that topmost spine and turning to the right. Observe your breathing again, breathing in, breathing out to help you rotate. And then let's go second side and over to the left. And at this stage, as we move into the more reflective part of the session, maybe the breath, so rather than pulling with your hands, allow your breath to help you rotate. And releasing, and change the cross of the legs. And make any readjustments that you need. And then left hand, right knee again, right hand behind you for one more time. And as I turned the first time, I looked back over my shoulder. I'm going to turn my head and look over the opposite shoulder. And then bringing back the full lift through the spinal column, back of the neck, crown of the head, sitting tall. And then let's go to complete the round to the opposite side. And looking over the opposite shoulder, feel for the length at the back of the neck from C7 to the base of your skull. Beautiful. And then let's go straight legs, Dandasana. Beautiful. And then find your way to a reclining position for your Shavasana. So folded blanket to support your head, and bolster for me will work to support the backs of my knees. And once you're lying down, take a little while to make a few of the bigger adjustments, the gross adjustments. So if you reach your hand around your bottom and lift your buttocks and draw them away from the base of your spine, you're not pressing the lumbar area into the floor, You're just allowing for a little bit more length there. And then for your thorax, for the dorsal thoracic spine, press your arms down. So as you press your arms firmly into the mat, lift your back chest a little bit and give space to your shoulder blades now, and allow the shoulder blades to be wide and a little flatter to the floor, so no sharp edges to them. And then releasing the back into the mat. Where you pressed your arms down to do that lift, now relax your arms and let them be fully supported out at a little distance from the side body. And as you relax your elbows, then it might feel like the arms are just shrinking a little bit as the muscles release from the bones. Let your fingers curl in to lightly touch your palms and feel the kind of velvety quality of the palms through the sensitive tips of your fingers. And then release your fingers so all of them and your thumbs find their own levels. And having made those adjustments, then take this time to allow the body to become more motionless. Of course, if you need to make any other adjustments at any time, then feel free to do that. But now we want the body to become quiet, to create an atmosphere of quiet, not only in the body, but in the mind. And to enhance that, begin to observe your breath in its quiet state. And it's often the case when we notice the pattern of the breath that we want to improve it in some way. So the art of encouraging the witness is to just leave the breath as it is and be a silent observer. The breath is there, it comes and goes, the most natural thing that we do, and the most constant. And in the quiet of the next few minutes and observing the breath, allow the mind to be drawn into the breath. Maybe where you can feel it or emphasize it is in the heart center. And coming back now to the breath and feeling the breath that infuses every part of our body, feeling it in our limbs, our arms and our legs, in the organs of the body, elimination, digestion, respiration, the whole body, our senses. And when you're ready to move, make some small movements with your hands and your feet, your toes, and then roll onto your side in your own time, at your own pace. And gradually come up. Let's take a seat together. And when seated, rest your hands into your lap, onto your legs. Find your comfortable and good yoga posture. Bring your hands up and place them center chest. And draw yourself into that introverted space that you've been in, that silent and beautiful space. And then in consideration of our practice, and in the way that we share the practice with each other, send the goodness and the kindness and the love of your practice out into the wide world. Namaste. Thank you.